My name is Richard Goerling. I'm a police lieutenant out in Hillsboro, Oregon, and I work with police officers to improve their wellness through training mindfulness. I found myself introduced to mindfulness through a rather long journey over several years. Probably about 10 years ago as a police sergeant working in a patrol division, paying attention to young police officers and even myself on how we treated the public. And there was some sense of what I like to call the asshole factor. We just weren't very empathic towards people. Not all the time, but there was enough times that I just really didn't like that. Mindfulness helps take us from the black and white world to the gray world that actually exists. And it helps us to live in a gray world. It helps us to manage people, to go, okay, sir, have a seat on the bench. And the person stares at you with a blind look in their eye. And okay, well, there's a problem there. And so mindfulness helps us be more self-aware and have the capacity to figure out what's going on and to pay attention to all the nuances of the person's behavior. So maybe I'm going to read, there's something not right here. Maybe this person is in distress and they're not just defying, a lawful order. The other piece is the ability to be empathic. And it doesn't mean we're running around giving everybody hugs, but it means that we are less judgmental. I was on a call recently where there was a 12-year-old child out of control. Years ago, I'd roll my eyes and go, oh gosh, parents can't parent. God, what's the world coming to, And, but in this case, heard the radio call. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I went to this call, and there's about 5 or 6 other officers because this 12-year-old boy had a garden implement. It was a hoe or a rake or something. And he's outside the house, and he's busting windows out with this hoe, and he's screaming. It was almost like a scene from a horror movie. And ultimately, we safely got him under control, and he instantly became putty. He just suddenly became this 12-year-old child. And I went and talked to Mom. Mom was in her early 30s. Mom was an admitted prostitute, admitted drug user. And, I thought to myself, there was a time when I would have been very judgmental to this mother. I think collectively our assessment of a call like this would have been, well, if the mom wasn't a prostitute and if the mom hadn't done drugs, then this wouldn't be happening. And because that is the only place we know where to land because we don't have the capacity to be empathic. But in this case, mindfulness allowed me to compassionately speak to this mother, not to be judgmental. And she knew I wasn't judgmental. And that was, I think, the power of this encounter, was that in that moment, she found humanity in this encounter with police. And even though everybody around her in her neighborhood was likely judging her and had their own conclusions and knew the right answer and had a prescription for how she could change her life, in that moment, she got to encounter a police officer who wasn't judging her for her world, and who simply was able to help her. And that's a small example of how mindfulness can transform policing in America. And it can really transform the relationship between police and the people that we are sworn to serve.